What are the overtaking rules in F1? I knew we'd get there one day, and today is the day we dive into the gloriously complicated mess that is overtaking in Formula 1 and who's allowed to do what. Of course, whenever there is a controversial incident between two drivers, there is massive debate as to who was at fault, who deserved a penalty, and so on. It's never really clear cut unless a driver clearly ploughs into the side of another car. There are many rules within the realms of overtaking, so let's start with the simplest to understand, the one move rule. This is around defending a position as opposed to attacking. When a driver notices they're under threat of losing their position, they are allowed to commit to one defensive move away from the racing line to, you guessed it, defend their position. Anything more than one defensive move is considered weaving and illegal by the stewards. However, this is where it already gets confusing for new fans who hear this rule and then watch a car go from the racing line to their defensive line and then squeeze back over to the racing line. That's however deemed as a driver preparing for the corner ahead as opposed to defending their position as such, and so they're allowed to do that as long as they leave at least one car's width between themselves and the edge of the track. We've already hit grey area number 1, haven't we? It's probably worth mentioning too, there's also a responsibility of the defending driver to not choose to change their line too late and catch the attacking driver by surprise. These cases are dealt by the stewards on a case-by-case matter, as lots of factors need to be taken into account, such as closing speed of the attacking car, how late the defending car moved, and so on. Already you can see why there's so many disagreements around penalties. Whilst you're absorbing what I've just said around overtaking rules, please do subscribe to the WTF1 YouTube channel. We're trying to hit 1 million subscribers, which would be a ridiculous milestone, so please do hit that subscribe button. Love ya! So how about when the drivers are side by side battling out on a straight? Well, in simple terms, they must respect the other car's space and not bully the other driver out of room. One example that immediately comes to mind, and I don't like mentioning it because I'm a massive Schumi fanboy, is from the 2010 Hungarian Grand Prix, where Michael Schumacher very nearly shoved Rubens Barrichello into a concrete wall trying to defend position. It was a scary moment and certainly not allowed. But even with things like this, it's up to the stewards to decide how much of a rule break it is. There's no hard and fast rule that says if you squeeze a car to within 10 centimetres of a wall, you get a 10-second penalty. And you can sort of understand why, because every single racing situation has many different factors to it. Now, if I was to say to you the 2018 Azerbaijan Grand Prix, 2 Red Bulls coming together, what part of racing do you think I'm about to talk about? It's of course the overtaking rules in and around a braking zone, because they're not the same as being on a straight. An abnormal change of direction when braking is seen as extremely dangerous, as it gives the attacking driver very little time to react. That's not to say a driver cannot change direction at all during a braking zone, but it is understood by the drivers that anything too aggressive could grab the attention of the stewards. As for the Daniel Ricciardo and Max Verstappen incident, they both received a reprimand on that particular occasion. Now, let's talk about the Lando Norris-Sergio Perez incident from the 2021 Austrian Grand Prix. This whole argument was around whether Sergio was entitled to space around the outside. Disputes over who deserves what space is one of the biggest arguments in racing and will continue to go on for, well, probably eternity. The understanding is for around the outside manoeuvres, the attacker must be side by side with the defending car, as opposed to halfway alongside if they're attacking on the inside. So with this ruling in mind, you can sort of see why the stewards felt they had to penalise Lando. Sergio was certainly alongside and by the rulebook was entitled to space. I'm not saying I agree with these rules, by the way, as I felt the Lando penalty was pretty harsh. Oh, and it's probably also worth mentioning that any overtake has to be done in a controlled manner, not simply dive bombing. That doesn't deserve space. The beauty behind the complicated rules of overtaking in motorsport. I bet you're glad you clicked on this video, right? Hopefully you feel less confused about it all rather than more. As you've probably noticed, there are so many intricacies when it comes to overtaking, and the rules simply cannot be clear-cut because every situation will always be slightly different. What do you make of the overtaking rules in F1? Could they be made simpler and clearer for fans? Let us know in the comment section below.